Ho, ho, ho. Hello, Star Wars fans. Hey, it's just 28 days until Christmas when you're watching this. And we're here with Imagic Maker for our weekly predictions for the Mandalorian episode for the week. So happy Thanksgiving to those of you in the United States who are watching this on when it's released. And for everybody else, hope you're having a fantastic day. So today we're going to talk about Chapter 13. We have the title released at this point, The Jedi. That was released several days ago or leaked either way. But I find it interesting at this point that we don't yet have a synopsis. Every other episode this year, we've got that little short synopsis that says, Mandalorian's meeting with new allies or old allies or whatever the case might be. This week, there was, of course, a leak that was released that had a ton of spoilers in it. We're going to stay very far away from that today. But we don't have a synopsis. And I just find it interesting that that might kind of fly in the face of the spoiler rumors. Or it's interesting that Lucasfilm or Disney Plus has been able to keep that under wraps. What do you think, Magic Maker?
Well, I originally thought that the there was not a synopsis, and or that the rumors were not true. But now that we haven't released a synopsis, I'm thinking that maybe that gives some validity to the rumors and all actually. So they're not releasing it because they don't want to confirm the leak.
Could be.
So that's my concern, because I really don't like the leak, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are very viable, but I'm not exactly sure how they play off. And I'm always worried about spoilers, because you can read them differently than the way that they actually get executed, because a lot of things can happen during post-production. And we heard that as the season was getting ready to start, they brought Rosario Dawson in and did some more action scenes with her that were, at the time, they were supposed to come out, or was rumored that they were going to come out with the promotional material. It was going to be in the trailer for the season 2, but to this day we still haven't seen a frame of that footage. So they're keeping it under wraps very, very tightly. The second half of the season, we have nothing, absolutely nothing to go from. So, and even at this point, even though we know Rosario's in it and they've told us that she's going to play Ahsoka, and we get to speculate what she's going to look like, we don't have any images showing us. So we're to our point of what are our predictions? All things in all, and again, not counting in the spoilers that could be there. This is just our regular predictions for the episode. And if you haven't seen yet, a Magic Maker posted his predictions yesterday. That would have been Wednesday of this week on the 25th. So go out and look for that. I'll try to put a link in the comments here. I put a link to his channel. You can find that out there. So with that being said, Magic Maker, do you want to give us just a brief rundown of your predictions for this week's episode? Hello? You still there? We may have lost a Magic Maker. I think he's muted. We'll see if we can get him back. In meantime, I'll give you my predictions. I think we're certainly going to come in to the episode with Din Djarin coming to Ahsoka. So he should be there or approaching, that will be quickly landing on the planet, and he will find Ahsoka there preparing for some sort of activity. And my thought is that she has been pursuing different elements of the Empire remnants, and perhaps even Moff Gideon from time to time, or other Moffs, other fleet segments. and in that she is preparing to do battle, or she's been doing battle, and this is her base of operations. We're having some issues with Imagic Maker and his connection here. He's coming back in. Let's. There we go. Are you back, Imagic Maker? We're still having trouble with. Let's see. Still bad. He's having issues here connecting. We'll keep trying. But so my thought is that Ahsoka will be running her base of operations, and we know that Moff Gideon had a tracking device put on the Razor Crest, and that I think as soon as they start to engage with the Ahsoka and I'm sorry, I'm trying to communicate with a Magic Maker and chat with you guys as well. But there you are. I can hear you now. Okay, you're back. Yeah. So I think as soon as Din Djarin and Ahsoka meet, they start to go through things. Moff Gideon's going to show up, and Ahsoka's base of operations is going to be revealed, and these dark troopers that we saw at the end of chapter 12 will be deployed, and a battle will ensue. During that battle, I expect we'll get a direct confrontation with Ahsoka and Moff Gideon. Moff will be wielding the Darksaber. There's been some speculation about the Dark Trooper armor being wearable, that Moff Gideon may actually be able to don the armor and fight using the Darksaber in the armor. I'm not exactly sure and how these Dark Troopers are going to come in. We know that in the EU, there were actually 4 prototypes. The first was Model 0, which was a cyborg. And then we had 1, 2, and 3, progressively stronger and bigger. And these appear to be Gen 2 or perhaps Gen 3, the second model or the third wave of these Dark Troopers. The third set had been donned by people in the comics, but it's hard to tell how they'll exactly bring that in to this episode. I will say that I'm extremely excited to see them grabbing something that's so clearly EU material.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think that that this is really, to me, the hallmark of Felony. And I don't want to take any credit away from Favreau, but Felony likes to pull things from the legends, and I think he has gotten the ear of Favreau as he's writing these episodes. And I know that Favreau hands them to Filoni to review and to add his pieces to it. So I think this is something that Filoni worked with Favreau to add in, so that he could have these bad guys, these people that are able to contend with the Mandalorians, contend with with a Jedi, because right now stormtroopers are no match for the Mandalorians. I mean, they just go through them like a hot knife through butter. So, I mean, it's comedic, but at this point now, it's there had to be something that wiped out the Mandalorians in season 1, right? And the covert, we saw the stacks of helmets.
Yes.
So we have an idea of what has occurred, because we know it wasn't the normal stormtroopers. I mean,
right.
Because we've seen what they do, so it couldn't have been them. So it had to have been somebody who was a threat.
Right.
So now we're about to see them in action. We have some things explained, and now we have a threat that Ahsoka may not be aware of. I'm curious as to why Ahsoka is on Corvus. That's something I would like to speculate on.
Yeah, one thing I mentioned as you were kind of regaining our connection here is I think Ahsoka has this base of operation, and she's maybe been going out on missions against the Empire remnants in the galaxy from this base of operation. And this is just a hidden base of some sort. The reason I say that is because Bo-Katan is sending Din Djarin to that planet, and if it were just a mission, she may be off of it by the time he got there. Or if it was a temporary place, she may be off of it. So it's either she's like it's a Yoda Dagobah kind of situation, or it's more of a hidden base. And I tend to think that it's more of the latter, that we're going to find Ahsoka there in a hidden base. I suppose it could be, I didn't even want to think about this, but I suppose it could be like Luke on Octo as well. She could be, in retirement, so to speak.
Right.
That is a third possibility. I don't think that Felony or Favreau would take us there. Because just the hardship that they had with putting Luke on Octo, I don't think they would do that with Ahsoka.
I think they would have an all right, just all out revolt if they did that.
I agree with you. So I
can see it. So I can see, he arrives on the planet. He climbs up the stairs. Ahsoka turns around in her robes. He hands Baby Yoda to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka looks at him and throws him off the cliff.
No. Oh, you're being rotten again. No. So there is a question out there. Will Din Djarin meet Ahsoka in a situation similar to how he met Cara Dune? You remember back when he first met Cara Dune, he spotted her, and then he started following her, and she took that as aggression, and they had a little fisticuffs. Or might he meet her might he meet Ahsoka in that kind of way, where he comes up, she's been in hiding, it's some sort of secret base or something, and when he shows up, she's on the defensive, and it kind of takes him to task right away. Not sure. Or
no, I don't see that happening. And the reason why I don't see that happening is because Baby Yoda is front and center. And she would immediately gravitate to him, not the other way around.
Yeah, the child is going to definitely be there. I can imagine Din will be carrying the child much as he did when he met Greef and Cara coming off there on Navarro. So, that might be the case. That's a good argument. So we'll go with you on that one. And then we end up with them meeting there, but I think shortly thereafter, Greef Karga is going to arrive, Moff Gideon's going to arrive with the Dark Troops, and the battle will ensue. I think a good 80 or 90% of the episode might just be pure action. Absolute pure action.
So what if she's on Corvus because she's imprisoned?
Imprisoned by whom?
That's a good question. Now we're, just I'm trying to think of reasons why she might be there, and so it's hard for me to believe that Ahsoka, if she was, knowing what's all going on in the Outer Rim and that there's something going on, that she wouldn't be out trying to figure it out, especially since this is not the full Imperial days.
Right.
So I'm hard pressed to believe that she would just simply be doing nothing.
Right. That's why I think it's a base of operation. She's got a hidden base.
So I'm speculating is that what if Corvus is in particular a prison for Force users, and she's been trapped there. And the reason why Bo-Katan has not gone to rescue her has something to do with who has imprisoned her.
Well, I was going to say the only other Jedi imprisonment system we've even seen was on Mandalore when they took Maul, right? And put him in that restraint. And the Mandalorians had a way to imprison Jedi, but I don't know that the Empire ever developed anything like that. Oh, I think I'm losing you again. So we'll see if we get reconnected here. Let me check. Is it getting better? Let me know. All right. Okay. Just sent something in. And so while we wait to get that fixed, I'll continue on. I think that I really like the idea that maybe she is in prison, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. If so, we know the last time we saw Ahsoka in Rebels, she had left to go find Ezra and Thrawn, and who were taken away on the space whales, right? So they went there to find Ezra and Thrawn. If indeed Ahsoka has been captured and imprisoned, my leading speculation then would be that it would have been by Thrawn, not by some empirical remnant, or even by the Mandalorian. Certainly not.
Right. So Bo-Katan knows that she's on Corvus. Bo-Katan said, "Tell her that I sent you, so that she'll know who sent you." And so that would make me. I'm speculating. Why is she there? And I'm thinking the only way she can't have been going out would be because of, in my mind, would either be because she is waiting for the right moment, which means there's probably a religious site there. There's a temple. Or she's imprisoned. And those are the only two reasons I can kind of come up with.
Well, I'll throw in the third that I think it just could be a base of operations. So it could be a abandoned rebel base, or an incomplete rebel base of some sort, where she is taking refuge. It's hidden, it's well placed, and she can get out on missions. It's got some sort of intel gathering there. And if it is, as you have speculated, has some relation to Cronus, then perhaps Cronus could be feeding her the information from that planet. And then she's using that to go out into the outer regions, or into Empire controlled or remnants to do battle. And
Right.
And I'll bring up again that if you read the Aftermath novels, you'll see the Moffs are sort of in contention with one another to get control. And it's not an organized system at all. And you end up with some thinking that they're in charge, and others are actually subverting them and setting them up to fail. And they're doing shadow battles with one another, kind of behind the scenes, and all vying for power and control. And my speculation is that Moff Gideon is of that type, that he is doing battle against somebody, another Moff, or some other power. And go back to season 1, where IG-11 had a very clear mission to kill the asset, and the child, Baby Yoda. And Din Djarin was told, we prefer to get it alive. And we find out that that bounty was put out by Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon very much wants the child alive,
Right.
to harvest the M count, right, the blood with the midichlorians, and that they're doing some experimentation. He needs the child alive to continue those experiments. So I think that somebody's trying to subvert Gideon and knows what he's up to, and they're trying to put him out of power. I don't know if it's another Moff, or if it's another, Grand Admiral or whatever.
Right.
Or it's another power. It could be the Chiss, or it could be something else. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, and I definitely think that that's the case. I mean, I do think that there's and I speculated that earlier this week that there is, with when I was wondering, do we know for a fact that Imperial was working for Moff Gideon? I mean, even though we know Dr. Pershing was there and that he's tied to Moff Gideon, he may just be working for whoever the doesn't kill him, kind of thing. But I mean, it's that said, we know that there's clearly another faction out there that is seeking to eliminate, the asset, the child.
Right. And we know Pershing was reporting directly to Moff Gideon. In that recording, he says, "I will not fail you again, Moff Gideon." Right. That's how they found that out. So, we know that station there on Navarro it was being controlled by Gideon. Gideon had his fingers in the Navarro for some time. We saw that in season 1. And now we're going to find a direct battle between Ahsoka and Gideon. I think for sure.
Yeah, and who took Baby Yoda in the first place?
That's a good. Yeah, how did Baby Yoda get to where he was, where Quill lived? How did he get there?
Right.
And how long had he been there? And I've been saying for some time, and this is just going on the record again. Like he's 50 years old, and that made him approximately the same age as Anakin. They were born in the same time frame, and throughout the Clone Wars, the prequels, and even the original trilogy era. Well, by the original trilogy era, the Jedi Temple had been dismantled, but throughout the prequels, the child would have been of age to been brought into the Jedi fold. Was he? And did he receive some amount of training? And might Ahsoka already know him as a child, as a youngling, somebody who had been in the temple training and who had escaped during Order 66?
Yeah, I mean, I have a speculation on that, and that I think he's tied to the Children of the Force arc that was in Clone Wars. They also readdressed the Children of the Force in Rebels.
Yep.
To me, this is an iteration on that same theme. There's something there. There's a reason why they wanted these children, and I believe for experimentation. And then, and all honestly, I know we talk about Anakin killing the younglings in Revenge of the Sith. I actually think that Anakin, when he went through that, it's an awful thing that he did, but in some way, it was a small mercy, and so killing them so they couldn't end up in the labs of Palpatine.
Could be. In any event, I think that the child is smarter, more developed, and more trained than he's led on to this point. And I keep going back to the example of Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, and and somebody quoted earlier on Discord, right? Or it was with it was on the Den of Nerds live stream this morning. I was going back and forth with folks there, and they said, "Judge me by my size, do you?" Right? Like,
you should not.
right. And so I think that the reason Yoda went and pretended to be like a like preschooler, 2-3-year-old, he's over 800 years old, and we know by the time he was 100, he was a Jedi. He was training Jedi, somewhere in that ballpark. So I think absolutely by age 50, the child would have gone through those basic. Think back to the Jedi Temple, where the younglings were holding the lightsabers with the little probe droids that were, shooting electric shots at them.
Right.
I think the child, the Baby Yoda, has been through that training. I think that he could yield a white lightsaber. I don't know where his lightsaber would be, or maybe he didn't finish the training. But I think that he has absolutely been trained, and that when push comes to shove at some point, he will reveal himself as being more than what we think. Much like Yoda, once push came to shove, he came out of character, and Luke's like, "Whoa, wait a second! You're master Jedi Master Yoda. Oops." And I think we're going to get a similar type experience, but certainly not Jedi Master Baby Yoda.
Right. The question is, will it happen in this episode, or does it happen at the end of the season?
That's a good question. And will Ahsoka have a lightsaber that she tosses to him and says, "Hey, give me some help"? And then will be in shock, looking like an Ahsoka, looking at the child, looking at Ahsoka, looking at the child, like, what just happened?
It would be even funnier if it's blue and red and he can tell the difference.
Oh my goodness! So I think that it could be this episode when Ahsoka may blow his cover. Not sure, but at the same time, I think there's two possibilities coming out of this. Either we're going to continue on. So what happens? So here's the question: if we can follow this down with the if-thens, right? So if Din delivers the child to Ahsoka, does she keep him?
See, I don't think that's going to happen. I personally think that he's going to continue on his quest, and I think, in a sense, what you're setting up is, what if this is the baby from Looney Tunes that's really an old man that's conning everybody?
Right.
And next thing we know, he's got the cigar in his mouth. He's like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's that, but so I don't think that Ahsoka will keep the child, and there'll be one of two reasons. Either she's going to say, "No, you need to go find Master Luke Skywalker," or they're going to be caught in this battle with Moff Gideon for several episodes. And the rumors that Ahsoka was only going to be in one episode are wrong, and that she'll be in the rest of the episodes. And we'll then join Ahsoka through the end of the season, where the fate of the child would be determined at the last episode. Either she agrees to take him, or he finds Luke, or whatever. And that'll be the cliffhanger. At the end is him leaving the child with one of them. Or this goes its way, and then Ahsoka says, "You got to go find Luke." She goes off continuing her missions that she's been on, and Din Djarin then continues the mission of finding the child's people. So in either case, do we get more Ahsoka after this episode or not?
I don't think so. I think this is a one and done.
Yeah. That's been the rumor all along.
Yeah, and I think that rumor is true. But I think she will set him on his path. So I think right now it's been, we've all thought he's going to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka's going to be the, he'll unload the child on Ahsoka, and Ahsoka will train the child, or something along those lines will occur. And I think because we're expecting that, or have been expecting it, that's not what's going to happen.
Well, going into the season, I thought that we were going to be looking for Luke Skywalker every episode, and that he was going to be tracking the steps of Luke Skywalker, and we would go to places like Dagobah or Hoth or Endor, where Luke had been, and looking for clues.
He certainly would be the most famous Jedi, right? I mean, at this point in time, he should be almost galactically famous, because he defeated the Emperor and Vader.
Right.
as everyone tells the story, even though he's like, that's not what really happened, But
Oh,
as far as they tell it, everybody else tells the story is he killed them both, right?
right.
And so you would think that would be galactically out there. So I'm actually surprised he hasn't come across that name.
Yeah, me too. And so I think, and I've said this all along, that this is a one and done with Ahsoka, and I think that she is going to drop Luke's name, and she's going to tell Din that, hey, I'm out here wiping up the remnants. I've got my own battles to fight, and it's no place for a child. Right? This is real combat, and you need to go find Luke Skywalker. He's involved with some sort of academy or training or something. He has more connections than me. Whatever. He's younger. He's more, in a place to take care of the child. Whatever that excuse is, and that she's going to say the last place I ran into Luke Skywalker was X, and the end of the episode. They're going to part ways, and Din Djarin's going to head towards where Ahsoka points him, and Ahsoka's going to continue on with her battle, setting up her spinoff series.
Yes, I mean, I think you're right on that. That she'll name drop him, and not only that, I think she'll probably say, "I'm not a Jedi. I'm not the one you're looking for."
That would be nice. That's a nice callback, and it raises up again. We've had these discussions on Discord before. What is a Jedi, right? Like if you are a member of the Jedi Council or the Jedi, you are a member of that religion, but you're not following the tenets of that religion closely. Versus you're not a member of the Jedi Order, but you do follow. So Ahsoka is not a member of the Jedi Order, but most people would say that she is more Jedi than most other Force users we've ever met. And,
sure, I would say she doesn't follow the code, and I think the code is what makes you a Jedi.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think they're going to set this up as a juxtaposition, kind of like to the Mandalorian Creed.
Okay.
And so what she's going to do, I think this is real important, a setup from the reason why she conferred with the Bendu in Rebels, because she was learning the way of the middle.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean she plays around with the dark side or anything. It just means that she is not one that's going to adhere to this code that's going to put her in opposition necessarily to the, those that wield the dark side. She's going to look at each thing individually and attempt to assess what the true threat is. Yeah. I'm not saying that she lets the dark side go rule and do whatever it wants to. I'm just saying that she has her own agenda, and I think that's I don't know what that is. I don't know how to ascertain it. I'm not sure if it's the will of the Force. I'm not going to pretend into that, but she's clearly stepped away from the code because she sees how the code can be bent.
Yeah, and I tend to think of it similar to the Catholic Church and Christianity, that the Jedi Order has its own tenets, and that at some point the Protestant Reformation came about, and other denominations split off from the Catholic Church. And so you get Martin Luther's treatises and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I see the Jedi Order as saying, yeah, we are the true church, if you will, to use that analogy. And she says, I'm not Catholic. All right. I'm no Jedi. And but yet she still adheres to the tenets of Christianity or Jedi ways. So I just use that as a parallel because I think most people are familiar with Martin Luther, the Reformation, and Catholicism. So
she's a Whill'ian.
Yeah, perhaps. So what do you call again with the parallel? What do you call a Christian that's not a Catholic, right? Or what do you call a Jedi who's not a member of the Order? Right?
Well, I was just saying, we know that there's the Guardian of the Wills, and the Wills have something to do with midichlorians. Oh, I said the bad word. and and we have other things that are involved in this. So I mean, so if she's listening to the Whills, then she's a Whill'ian.
So interesting.
It's our new term.
Yeah. So I've been listening to.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. Well, and I know there's a big controversy on Thor Skywalker's Discord. If you ever bring up Gray Jedi, brace yourself on his Discord, because now you're going to be schooled, right? Like they will not miss the opportunity to make sure you understand that Gray Jedi is an abomination to the ways. And so, but I've been listening to a commentary of Timothy Zahn on his original trilogy, and in that commentary, it's an interview with Timothy Zahn and the publicist that he was working with at the time. He said there was a term being coined at the time called Black Jedi, and these Black Jedi or Dark Jedi. I think he called them Dark Jedi because they weren't Sith, because they didn't follow the ways of the Sith, but they just didn't belong to the Jedi Order.
Right.
And so if you were a Force user who was not a member of the Order, you were a Dark Jedi, meaning not in the Order. So maybe she's a Dark Jedi in Timothy Zahn's definition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the main key after that is, I mean, if you look at who he had Jorah Siboth in there, who was a clearly in his stories, and he would be a Dark Jedi, and that he didn't follow the tenets of but he clearly used the dark side. So you're using the dark side, but yet you're not a Sith. So I wouldn't say that Ahsoka by any means would be a Dark Jedi.
Right. Well, but so she's a light Jedi, but not a Jedi.
Right.
That's the confusing part. So, and I think we're in agreement. It's just about semantics, and it's fun. Mm-hmm. This is where it's really fun to be a Star Wars fan, like deep in the nerdiness, because I think Ahsoka very clearly said, "I'm no Jedi."
Right, and I think we leave it at that. She's no Jedi. That's why I came up with the term just now, Whill'ian.
A Whill'ian, a user of the Whills, or right.
a Force. She's a follower of the Whills. She's a Force user. She listens. She tries to do her best to listen to the Force, the Whills.
Yeah. Or maybe she's a Bendu'ian.
Yeah, maybe so. She's a Bendu'ian.
A Bendu'ian. There we go. We have now officially coined a term. We
have either one. We have now two coined phrases: Bendu'ian and Whillians.
There you go. So in the comments, if you're listening to this, let us know you like. Do you like Bendu'ian or do you like a Whill'ian? So that'll be fun for folks to give us that feedback. So so I think we're in pretty much agreement. We're going to see a one and done episode. Ahsoka is not going to have the child at the end. The next question is, will Din have the child at the end of the episode?
I don't think so. I personally think that he is going to be captured in this episode.
And you've been consistent with that, my friend.
Yep.
Every episode, you're like, oh, they're going to get the child. Okay. Well, next time they'll get.
I thought it might happen at the end of the last one just because that was the middle, and I thought it was set up. But I'm okay with that occurring now. I think it's either going to happen in this one or the next one. Let me put it that way, because
or the no.
And let me say why I say that. I always believe that these are set up in first, second, and third acts for the season. So the last part of a series that ends well, all right, and I think it's going to end well in this, for the season. But is that you have a phase in writing called the Darkest Night. That's when a character has to come to a realization about something. They have to accept a truth that they don't want to. They lose something that's vital to them, and they have to try to get it back. But it's a moment of self-reflection, and so losing the child and him asking whether this is him, if this is truly the quest that he's supposed to do. And I think he's about to come to a couple of different things, and so it's either going to be this episode or next. So I could see it not being this episode, but I'm still going to stay with it being this episode. I think he's getting ready to come to. Things have been set up for him about what is a Mandalorian. We see him toying around with people seeing his face as he was eating in the last episode, or sipping his whatever his drink, his miso soup, with the child, and I just think that this is where we're headed, and so he has to come to terms with his creed. He has to come to terms with his quest. He's having to come to terms with the meaning of the child to him, and he's about to learn a bunch of stuff. And I think if you're right about the child being letting him on, and he's fallen in love with this toddler of a child that's not a toddler at all, then he's going to feel deceived. Everything that he's been set up to believe is going to come crashing down around him. Yeah. So that's a darkest night moment.
Good point. Yeah, and very good point. And so I think we finished. I think we're well into the start of Act 2. Right. Act 1 was find people of your kind. Right. The Mandalorians. I need to find other Mandalorians that can help me find these Jedi. Right. So that has happened. First, he found Cobb Vanth, who wasn't a Mandalorian at all. But then he found Bo-Katan and the Night Owls, which are clearly Mandalorian. And they sent him now on the path. So he got the information. That's Act 1. Act 2, he's on his way to meet the Jedi. And that started in chapter 12. We're going to get there in chapter 13. And we will find out at the end of this chapter if he's still on that or if we've moved into another act.
Yeah, if you want to think about archetypes too, so this is a really good important piece. The archetype is that our frog lady was the herald. She brought him the information about where to find Mandalorians to help him on his quest. And the Mandalorians actually turned into threshold guardians because she wouldn't give him the information until he did what he needed to do for her.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we're going to have to cut it off just a little bit short today. I've got some work things coming up here to get me. Any last thoughts you have as far as predictions for this episode?
All right. Well, Ahsoka will not be able to complete her quest or what she's doing there. Whatever is keeping her there will end and force her on a different path. So he'll be and he will not end up with she will not end up with the child we talked about. I think you're right that we'll end up with Luke at the end. So I know it's not in this episode, but it's going to be set up. And I won't be surprised if in this episode we have the setup. If it doesn't happen for the Darkest Night, we definitely have all the pieces together for the Darkest Night to occur. And if it doesn't occur in this one, it'll occur in the middle of the next episode.
Very good. So my summary is likewise, we're going to meet Ahsoka right away. And I think very quickly thereafter, Moff Gideon's going to arrive with the Dark Troopers. And we are going to have an all-out battle that'll take up most of the episode. At the end, I think Ahsoka is going to say, I have work to do. I cannot help you on this quest, and send him after Luke. And I think that's where we go for the episode as a whole. Very excited for it. Could not be more hyped. And I want to again thank you for spending some time with me today, and very much look forward to us getting back together to talk about it after the weekend. So with that being said, we've got to cut it off here, and we would like to get your thoughts in the comments. If you're watching this now, leave us your thoughts and let us know. And don't forget to vote Whill'ian or Bendu'ian. That's the question of the day. So with that being said, happy Thanksgiving again, everyone. Hope you have a blessed, wonderful day. And until next time, Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.